that, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 10 of this season, coming to today from the Nordschleife. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the broadcast booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, we are here at the Behemoth to end all behemoths. I always love how our graphics say that it is 12 miles, which it is most certainly not. 14 miles in all in this absolute monster of a racetrack. And I am not even going to attempt some of the corner names that we have got in store here today, because this is going to be a day to remember for some and maybe to blank out of other people's memories effective immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, as I said last week, this is the sternest test of a driver's ability here at the Nordschleife. It is, it's just a massive track. Every corner imaginable, elevation changes, slow speed, high speed, lots of drafting involved with these spec racers, especially on the Dottinger Hoa at the end of the lap. Where the last time I think I did a broadcast here, we had a car with a 2-second lead starting the backstretch and ended up barely making it to the end as he was trying to conserve fuel, and the cars behind him were just at full chat. So we're in for a fantastic race. Just kind of go ahead and warn you now. Overtime for qualifying, overtime for the race. It's going to be a longer than usual broadcast today, so just strap in and let's get this thing going.
Yeah, and the last time I saw any form of overtime, Canada got beat in the hockey game. So we'll have to see how Mr. Wilkie does here in this race here today. I had to. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he got my seat in the other Formula Ford booth. At least we got the gold medal. But no, it's going to be a fun one. This track was the site of my very first ever iRacing broadcast all the way back on March 3rd of 2023. I was still in high school at that point. I was covering the Radical SR10s, and I had no production feed, so I had no idea what the hell was going on out there on the racetrack. But one thing that I've been able to talk about every single time it feels like that we cover a race here is the draft and how absolutely monstrous it is. Now, it helps that we've got a massively long back straightaway to end off this lap, but these Spec Racer Fords kind of increase that sort of draft strength that we usually see heading down there up to about 50.
Yeah, it really does. There's a few long, good straight. Obviously, the Dottinger is the long straightaway at the end of the lap, but there's a few good straightaways here involved in this lap as well. And then there's some that are not necessarily straight, but they're almost straight because of the cars that we're driving today. So, but once again, it's such a hard track. It just, for me, it took me just a month just to figure the track out, to really kind of learn the flow. And just kind of remember where the corners were coming because they come thick and fast. So it's once again, it is just a challenging racetrack, and it's fun. It's fun to race. It's fun to drive, but it's absolutely nerve-wracking when you're in the pack and these cars are going to pack up. I think just judging by some of the times I saw during the officials this week, as well as what I saw in practice, we've got about 5 cars that are going to be at the front of this field. And then there's going to be a few cars behind them trying to hang on to that draft as best they can. But there's about 5 cars that are going to be rapid on this track, and it's going to be fun to watch them navigate these corners through this 40-minute race today.
Yeah, and this race of the season, so probably a good thing to take a look at the championship point standings as we head off into this third to last round of this season here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, because we've got drivers all around the field looking to try and make an impression. Let's start off with Spec 1, where Ian Joyner, who was absent last week on the streets of Chicago, is currently still holding on to the points lead, although the gap has come down significantly between himself and Jason Green. It was over 100 points 1 week ago. Now, though, we've got to consider about the drop rounds. We've got to consider a lot of things. Ian Joyner's still in a pretty good shot, but Jason Green certainly eking his way into that fight as well. Nathaniel Schramm, popular man in the YouTube chat, as always, is slotted in third. Kane Halliburton, your reigning champion, is in fourth. Alexander Gorson is slotted in fifth, with Dirk Braun, your series sponsor in the form of Dirk Hughes Dickel, slotted in sixth. Jason Dunnington, Felix Samoas, Elias Pleva, and Barrett Brummett running at your top 10 in the Spec 1 points. We'll take a look now at Spec 2, where things are always a bit more up in the air, and you can never really nail down who the champion is going to be, and this season is no exception. Look at that 1 point the difference between Scott Russell and Matt Thompson, 520 to 519. That is going to be an incredible fight as we get into the final few weeks. Paul Jackson is still there to pounce potentially in third, but he's probably more worried about Richard Harwood, 6 points behind him in fourth, with Steve Saunders only 1 point behind Harwood, running at your top 5, and what has been a very competitive Spec 2 category, really all across the Weekend Warrior. Spec 2 is always a class to keep your eyes on, for you never really know who's going to walk away with the crown. Same 2 as well goes for Masters, as I think I just saw Wilkie kick 6 different colors of crap out of himself against the barrier. Yurik Mani is your championship points leader in Masters, though. 468 points is his tally right now. Rich Meesters is slotted in second, with Brad Cathcart in third. Still pretty close between your top 3, but Cathcart and Chris Thorpe in third and fourth are tied at the moment. Antonio Reese is only 9 points back in fifth, with Chris Murakami, Tom Gradwell, Adam Bradshaw, Andrew Love, and Jim Brewster rounding out your top 10 in the Masters points. So that's how it looks in your championship points standings heading off into this round of the championship. Now, it being the Nordschleife, we will not tempt fate and do a lap guide, although if anyone would be a sick enough bastard to try and do that, it would probably be myself. But I think we'll use this time before we get off into the true final moments of qualifying to talk about the generous sponsor that we have had all season long, making these broadcasts possible, and what many fans haven't said is the best part of these broadcasts. Now, that being talking about the sponsor of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors broadcast, that being Durkee's Dickles. This race is sponsored by Durkee's Dickles. They know that every lap is hot and that consistency matters. No limp competition here. Just serious crunch, undeniable girth, and performance that fills each jar. Whether you want mild, hot, or what the hell do I think I can handle that, they bring the heat and performance you can feel. Durkee's Dickles puts the tickle in your pickle. Now getting into the final few moments of qualifying with the fantastic ad read behind us. Ian Joyner sitting atop of the board right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great lap. 738.8 is fantastic around this course. And, if you were paying attention, you noticed that we didn't have any qualifying times up before we went through the championship points. That's because it takes 15 minutes to set a first lap around here because it's it's an out lap of 7:30, then it's a real lap of 7:30. So, 15 minutes out of the 20-minute qualifier is before you can even get a lap on the board, which is why we're going to have the extended session as cars will get to finish off their flying lap at the end of the 20-minute mark. So we'll carry over for 4 or 5 minutes or so as we go. But we will say Alice Pleva, good lap, P2. Jake Williams off of a very strong performance in the Formula Fords just a couple hours ago in setting there in third. Naselli in fourth, Panero in fifth. Al-Shutwi Wilkie is our current Spec 2 pole sitter in seventh, so he did set a lap before he demolished his car. And Antonio Reese sitting down there in P10 with a 4 seconds off of the pole time, so about a 7:42. But you see there's a big pack of cars there from about 4 seconds, from 3 seconds down to about 6. So there's going to be some battles on here. We might not have a huge battle pack at the front of the field, but there's going to be some smaller skirmishes scattered throughout this as the attrition rate I expect to be a little higher than normal. And then going back to the points, the attrition rate, the battles are really good. And this is kind of a wild card race because this is one of those races where strange things happen. So they could really shake up our points battles here after this race is said and done.
Yeah, so this is the first time that we've seen the Spec Racer Fords tackle this racetrack in a decent period of time. It has been quite a long time since, and I think some drivers are very happy about that. We'll just have to see how they tackle the racetrack here. But checkered flag out in qualifying, that would usually mean we have a few more minutes left, but here we've got about 9 minutes probably left to go, so we can kick back our feet, relax, and have a little bit of fun. 11 minutes from Guido, so this this is always, we're going to be on the air for like 2 hours. I am absolutely convinced of that. But hey, we could talk about a lot here on this broadcast. Talk about the other wonderful return of the other Formula Ford Weekend Warriors a little bit earlier on today here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. It was a fantastic fight towards the end. Jake Williams grabbing the victory in that. I want to thank Frederick Sorley, one of your top 4 finishers. I think he may have finished on the podium, him and filmbuild.no for making those broadcasts possible. You were in the booth there, Charles, with our SMB pal, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, and I got to tune into that broadcast as I was having lunch, and that was a darn good race.
It really was. There was, obviously we were at Navarra on what they call the speed circuit. So 1 second or 1 minute lap times thereabouts, and it just made for some really great racing. The Formula Fords, we had a nice 4-car battle there at the end, including Jake Williams and 3 other cars as well, who just for whatever reason have slipped my mind at the point, and I just talked about them 2 hours ago. But it was great. It was Aero Nom and Mikey Pollard and our race sponsor for the event, which was Frederick Surley. That was your 4, and the last, they basically came across on top of each other. So it was really great racing, some good battles in the mid pack as well. So it was a fun race to call and be a part of, and it was a great little racetrack. It took out some of the more technical sections of Navarra, but it made for some really good racing, some good strategy. lot of defensive maneuvering. So yeah, it was a really, really exciting race, and love to have Formula Fords back for the remaining 3 races this season.
Yeah, of course, as always, you'll be able to catch the Weekend Warriors action, now complete with the trio of the Formula V Weekend Warriors at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays, 12:45 p.m. for the Formula Fords, and of course 2:45 Eastern here for the SRFs. Seeing Ian Joyner come towards the line along with Maurizio Nazelli, 2 very, very quick drivers in these cars. Nazelli has been around the block before. Ian Joyner has in the Weekend Warriors world, but only now kind of dipping his toes fully into these Spec race Fords. A past champion in Spec 1 in the Formula Fords, but now really showing some pace here in these SRFs, part of a very competitive stable of Almeida Racing Academy drivers that have really made a name for themselves in recent seasons here in the other Weekend Warriors world. A past sponsor of the Formula Fords as well. Love to see the other drivers still show up here to the racetrack week in and week out. Joyner was fastest, and I guess that would be Sector 8, but Nazelli looking to put in a quick time, currently qualified in 4th at the moment. Will he be able to set in a quicker lap time? He will, but it's not enough to jump him onto the front row. He jumps up to P3 with a 7:39.942. Jumps in front of Jake Williams off the back of that win in the Formula Fords, who's now been displaced down into 4th. Nathaniel Schramm now jumping his way into 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you see that it was kind of fun watching Joyner and Naselli coming down the Dottinger straight, because Naselli had the draft at the first part, was able to get past, and then gave the draft back to Joyner for the second half of the circuit. So that's the kind of the thing about that. Such a long straightaway that you're going to be able to make moves, and you can't make them too early. But then you can't make them too late, because once you get into the tier garden, tiers will fly, unfortunately, because that is where a vast majority of the accidents will happen at the end of the race, is going down into that last braking zone. It just usually induces carnage. I don't expect anything different today, unfortunately, as I think we've got pretty much everybody. We may have a couple of cars left out on track. Jake Williams is out there, and he's got 3 purple sectors, so he's having himself quite a run here. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. He's about it's like 6.5 minutes, so he should be coming around. This will be coming down into Swab and Swants, and then into the Colada Carousel at the end of the lap prior to the Dottinger straight. As we finish off this lap. So he's on the run here. He's got 3 purples and 3 yellows and 2 greens. So he's looks like he might have enough pace to at least move up a little bit here at the very late stages of qualifying.
And the ever-important run heading onto this straightaway. Jake Williams looking to try and set in a good time, as too is Jörg Mani, who's about to come across the line in a few moments' time. He's currently qualified down in 21st, pretty much mid-pack of the Masters racers, but not looking. Actually, we'll find out. He's still yet to come across the line. It's always a very long lap here. Doesn't look like he will improve. Oh, actually, nope, he will. He played me like a fiddle. Jumps up to 17th, but not enough for the Masters pole, as his friend Antonio Reese currently holding on to that himself. Here's Williams, though, heading to the end of the straightaway under the Bilstein Bridge. About to head his way off into the final few turns in a couple of moments' time. Williams yellow in the past 2 sectors, but he was purple and green in the 3 sectors before that. Here comes Williams heading his way off into the braking zone, using the access road to try and widen up the approach through here, and he's got to come into the pits, playing us like a fiddle as well. I wonder if there's some sort of lap invalidation there. Marcus Burkett is at the start of a lap as well, but if he's allowed to complete that, I will probably grow gray hairs by the time we get to the end of this qualifying session.
Well, I probably will too. So, so yeah, he's Guido yelling at us to Phil, add some more commentary. Like, I don't know.
Anyway, break out the harmonica.
Okay, well, I see Marcus Burkett there with an off track, so he came back to the pits. I think that means that we're done with qualifying. So now it's just a matter of getting this thing to kick over to the race session, and we'll be ready to go here. Obviously, we'll start this. It won't be a long pace lap, as we'll probably start here on the Dottinger straight before we get this thing rolling. So we'll have a couple of minutes to get through the starting grid. before this race gets underway, and then it's just going to be we'll let 40 minutes of chaos ensue. We'll talk about the obviously with a long lap like this, 7.5 minutes, your opportunities for pitting are going to be basically, I think, lap 2, 3, or 4, and I think that's about it. So it may just be 2 and 3. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be pretty tight constraints there on pit road as well, because obviously we're in the I guess what they call the Gessenstrecke or the short course, and it's going to be some tight confines there on pit road, especially on pit entry.
This pit lane is very short, but we're going to get the opportunity to take a look at the championship points once more. I mean, we have 3.5 minutes left here, so I think that'll be a good call. Refresh you all as to how things are looking here. Ian Joyner is your current championship points leader in Spec 1. Jason Green is slotted right behind in P2. Now, that gap has come down significantly over the past couple of weeks, but Joyner was not here last time out at the Chicago Street Course, and with the drop rounds and everything to consider, won't get too full of a picture, but that is a pretty good sight for Ian Joyner, holding on to a gap like that, heading off into the final few weeks. Just needs to avoid the falling anvils, and he'll be golden. Nathaniel Schramm, the most popular man in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, is slotted in third. Kane Halliburton, your reigning series champion here in the SRF Weekend Warriors. He's had a good season, but just hasn't really been here too consistently, and hasn't been able to put in the sheer dominance that he did on several occasions last season. So that's the reason why he's in fourth. Alexander Gorson is slotted in P5. Dirk Braun, the sponsor through Dirkies Dickles, want to thank Dirk Braun for making these broadcasts possible, is in sixth. Jason Dunnington, Felix Samoas, LA's Playvan, Barrett Brummett. Round out your top 10. You can see the rest of the drivers lined up there, including Maurizio Nazzali, who I think will be a big force to be reckoned with here today. We'll take a look now at Spec 2 and remind you all of how close this championship points battle is. Scott Russell, 1 point over Matt Thompson in P2. That is, well, I mean, you could get closer, but that's still pretty much identical. And it's the same case with Richard Harwood and Steven Saunders. 1 point between those two drivers in fourth and fifth. Paul Jackson right in the middle in P3, but very close fights in the Spec 2 class. Kevin Adrian, Phil Berry, Marcel Gorson, Hugh Simpkins, and Jeffrey Adkins complete your top 10 there. We will also take a look at the Masters category. You know how I said that you could get closer than a 1 point gap? Well, the Masters category kind of proves that, because we have some drivers tied over there. We'll get the WD-40 up and rolling to take a look at the Masters points very soon. There we go. Jörg Mani is at the top, comfortable. Rich, comfortable, very subjective terms here. Only 15 points the margin there. Rich Meesters is slotted in second. And there's the tie. Brad Cathcart and Chris Thorpe, 437 points, dead even, heading off into this race. Again, with drop rounds, the points aren't exactly equal, but the point still remains that it is very competitive across the entirety of the Weekend Warriors world. Antonio Reese rounds at your top 5 in the Masters class. Now, we've got to cover the full season of the Formula Vs, as always here. We've got to cover most of the season here for the Spec Racer Fords, and we'll be able to cover the final 3 races of the Formula Fords. But one consistent theme throughout this season of action, Charles, is that it has been incredibly close.
Yep, absolutely has. We've got some really top-notch drivers out here that are competing every week for victory. Ian Joyner has just been fantastic. All those, actually, to be fair, all of our Almeida racers have done very well when they've been here. Not just Joyner, but Kane Halliburton, and some other names that I can't remember right off the top of my head. But those guys always come out and put on a good race for us. Maurizio Nazelli, when he shows up, is always fast. He did qualify today, so no last to first challenge for Maurizio. So that's good. Aleš Pleva sitting there in P2, always a force to be reckoned with. Marco Pinero, what can you say about Marco? Is just amazing. Hey, so the grid's ready, and I think we're ready to go racing. So we've filled enough. Let's get started.
Yeah, filled enough dead air. Let's take a look at the starting grid. Ian Joyner is going to start from the pole. Aleix Pleva will join him on the front row. Maurizio Nazelli will start this race in third with Jake Williams rounding out row number 2. Row 3 will consist of the Italian of Marco Panero alongside the Saudi Arabian driver of Sul Al Shutwi. Nathaniel Schramm will start this race in 7th. Next to him will be your Spec 2 pole sitter, Mr. Joshua Wilkie. Jason Green will start this race in P9 with Dirk Braun completing your top 10. And Charles, I'll let you go through the next 10.
All right. Antonio Reese will start in 11th, our Masters pole sitter. Richard Harwood in 12th. Philip Berry starts in P13. Hugh Simpkins will start in 14th. Kurt Nunez on the inside of row 6. That's row 8. Walking Osbeck in the outside of row 8, 16th position. Jorg Monty starting in 17th. Brad Cathcart will start in 18th. Chris Murakami will start in P19. And Jeff Jacobson will start in P20.
And then looking through the rest of the pack, we got Rich Meester starting this race in 21st, next to Marcus Burkett in 22nd. Edgar Sanchinelli from Frito Sport will start this race in 23rd, alongside Chris Thorpe in 24th. It's Scott Russell starting in P25, Jason Dunnington alongside in 26th. Tom Gradwell will start this race in P27 with Paul Jackson alongside in P28. Matt Thompson will be in 29th, next to a newcomer here in this series, Frederick Reisteig will start this race in P30. I want to thank Guido and the production truck for letting us know what the pronunciation was, because otherwise we would have both been finished. Steve Saunders will start this race in 31st, with Andrew Love starting alongside in 32nd, rounding out your field. And we were able to get that all up and rolling before we roll on this formation lap. Quick note of something in the YouTube chat, somebody asking Guido to explain the Olympics closing ceremony. I saw like 2 minutes of it when I went down to try and get a glass of water before we went live on the show. It looked like something you'd only see in some sort of like backroom Illuminati sort of like ritual, so I'm not even gonna. Oh boy. But Charles, this is gonna be a fun one.
This is. I'm just. Once we get rolling here, the top 7. I'm leaving. I'm leaving our buddy Josh out because he didn't sound very confident when we were talking after the first race and before this race about his pace here. But I feel like the top 7 from Joyner all the way down to Schramm, I think are going to be able to stay close to each other, at least for the first lap or two of this race, and barring any major problems. And I think we're going to have a nice little battle up here at the front to start with, and we'll see who can get out and maybe pull a little bit of a gap, or maybe this breaks this up a little bit. So you got to be mistake-free here in order to be successful, and we're about to find out who is going to be able to do just that as we're going to the green.
The green flag flies and the drivers are on their way, and we're racing here at the Nordschleife. Fantastic start from Ian Joyner, but not able to cover the inside line as Aleix Pleva looked for it down the inside, not able to make a move stick there just yet. Everybody making their way off through the first turn, the Nord curve, very smoothly thus far, but now heading our way off through the tight end twisties. Everybody fanning out single file, trying to just survive this opening lap, which is a heck of a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, and so far so good. Haven't had any really big moves. Nobody falling back. Nobody just getting a great run. Highest jump right now is just 2 positions. Scott Russell up 2, as well as Tom Gradwell, and that's pretty much it. So everybody pretty much staying pat. Obviously, they realize what they're dealing with here, and they're not going to do anything. Obviously, at the very start of the race to jeopardize what could potentially be a good finish if they run mistake free.
Yeah, if you can play this race clean and be there at the end, that's everything. It's kind of like a NASCAR-style plate race. You just have to be there at the end to have a shot to win. Now, though, looking at Aleix Pleva trying to get a move done side by side as they still negotiate the opening parts of this lap, heading off into one of the best spots to try and get a move done early. It's Armberg, and not able to see that driver get that move done. Aleix Pleva pulling back in tow, and everybody, for the most part, running in the exact same spot that they started, and a little bit of shuffling throughout the field. I saw Richard Harwood and Antonio Reese side by side, but that was merely just again to the position that they were in before. They're still side by side on corner exit. Got to keep an eye on those two as they fan out side by side off through this section of racetrack, which is very hard to try and go through single file, let alone side by side, but that doesn't stop some racers farther behind from trying. You can see Paul Jackson in the epicenter of a little battle with Matt Thompson at the front of that little pack right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Yeah, first good passing position there at Ehrenberg, but it leads you down into Foxhole and then out now Forest, which is the first real trouble spot of the lap. It looks like everybody successfully through there as well. So drivers being very smart here early in the race, not really doing anything drastic. They realize what they got in store for them. But great race so far. And as you can see, no real big gaps. Half second, 7/10 of a second back at Marcus Burke at P23. Otherwise, we have our first and our big draft train here at the start of the race. Until somebody makes a mistake, and that's going to throw the wrench into the works. So far so good, all the way down through P27, half second gaps all the way around or less.
Yeah, so the field's still packed in. We see one small break in the field between Jason Dunnington and the newcomer of Fred Reistick. So still close throughout this field, but we'll have to keep an eye on it as we're only about a third of the way through this first lap.
Yeah, we're coming up to the halfway point of the first lap. Normally, I always look at the as we're making the run up the hill now, up to the castle. This is Klostertal coming up. Then we'll get into Bravery Corner and then around. And the halfway point for me is always the carousel. Kind of kind of feels like it's the halfway point of the lap. As then the racing gets a little bit more, a little bit faster and a little more aggressive there as we're battling through here, looking on board with Alex Plava running in P2, and once again, no real big gaps in the field here thus far.
Yeah, everybody's still very, very close, but we are going to start to see these racers get a bit aggressive as we look at Rich Meesters battling it out with Jürgen Mani and Kurt Nunes having his own little scrap as well. That's side-by-side racing in a section where you don't usually expect to see side-by-side racing, and a very good reason for that. That's all through the Moot curve, and often you can end your race in catastrophe if you go side-by-side through there with a heavy curb whack. Looks like they were able to get through that any further incident, but certainly playing with fire.
Yeah, indeed. That is our second biggest draft zone there, going up the mountain. It was spin there in the carousel. There's a car around. That's Richard Harwood, I believe. I think everybody else managed to get through okay, and Harwood's even running as well. So just losing the rear through the carousel and gets everything cleared, and everybody's still racing.
Yeah, so let's take a look at this. It was a lot of things going on there. Harwood, side-by-side racing heading all through there. Antonio Reese going for the move. Probably sensing an opportunity, thinking he was probably going to hop the berm and go onto the flat. But either way, kind of that attempted maneuver, kind of preempting a mistake, it's always going to end in trouble. You just can't go side by side. It's hard enough to just keep your car in that bit of banking. So going side by side through there, even in these Spec Racer Fords, that is a very, very tall order.
Yeah, that's pretty much impossible at that point. But you see the gap that it's created there in the cars, in the pack, and that's Antonio Reese now with some front end damage that's really going to hurt him once we get to some of the faster sections of the course. He's going to have to just kind of, wait until he can get in and get his pit stop and get his fast repair before he can do any real racing. He's going to kind of keep that nose covered in traffic to keep himself from falling a little bit further back. But he's probably going to get swamped going down going through Dottinger as we're now coming down into this fast section, coming up to Flugplatz. And you see the cars once again, that big gap there. The top 10 have separated from Philip Berry running in 11th, and so the top 10 now out on their own. And we'll see as we get a little bit closer down here into as we see a car off. That's Murakami just running a little wide, or is that and losing the front of the car. Did not see where that contact came from, but obviously that is not what you want on a course like this.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the replay to see what may have gone down. This is at the end of the final heave-ho of the lap before you head off into that section, and contact being made off into the braking zone, and going to auger straight into that Armco barrier. Unfortunate for Murakami.
I think that was Antonio Reese again that was involved in that. And so Antonio just kind of missing the breaking point there a little bit, or Murakami maybe broke a little bit earlier than he was expected, but contact made. Murakami with a meatball. He's going to have to come in and look at this 3 wide bump drafting 3 wide down the Dottinger as we're now starting to get a little racy up here at the front.
Oh, and this is absolute madness here at the start at the end of the first lap and the start of this race. Jason Green has been able to shake out in front with Dirk Braun right behind him in P2. Marco Pinero coming out of nowhere to jump his way up into third with Jake Williams now running in fourth. Shows you how quickly things can change here in this race. Ian Joyner and Leish Pleva started this race in P1 and P2. They now end the first lap in 9th and 10th, and really nothing that they did wrong there. It's just catching the bad wave.
Yeah, it really. And what it's also done is allowed Philip Berry and Osbeck to join that group. So now the front group is now 12 cars. So you just see from all the wake being created by those cars fanning out, that it allowed those cars that were just off the edge to able to rejoin, as we see Steve Saunders here coming down into Tiergarten. Is he going to lose that? It was a little crowd. Yeah, just a little bit into the barrier, little side slap of the barrier. Not too much damage. I don't think he was carrying it's a pretty glancing blow, to be fair. So I did see a car come into the pits, and that was Chris Murakami. Richard Harwood has a black flag, and I can't imagine what that's for. It could surely not. We're at 1 lap in, and we're an incident limit from one of the drivers. That doesn't seem like that seems like maybe more of he did not get a slowdown worked off in time and got the black flag because of it. Oh, to be fair, he did get the contact, so that is a 4. So I guess it's possible if there was other contact that we may not have seen during the course of that. So I guess it's possible that maybe Harwood has hit the incident limit already.
Yeah, and that's another source of trouble for these competitors here in this race, worrying about those incident points. You collect them a little bit too easily and a little bit too hot-headed on the first lap, even if it's stuff that you weren't really responsible for. That could just absolutely wreck your races. Side-by-side racing, Jason Green and Dirk Braun, both up 8 spots now as Green able to jump into that top spot. Jason Green senses an opportunity here. I know he does. He was off the back of getting some good results over the past couple of races and making some big inroads in the championship last time out at the Chicago Street Course. So now with Joyner a little bit behind, at least at the moment. Steve Saunders hitting the barrier. That's heading off into to Arenberg. Talked about that turn at the other start of the race on lap 1, and here on lap 2 it's claimed its first victim. But Jason Green, I think, has a real good shot to make some big inroads in the championship here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back, as we're getting another replay here, and this is Antonio Reese as we're coming through Adenau Forst and just losing the rear of the car. Very easy to do. Obviously, he's a little compromised there, and now he's compromised even more as he backs it into the Armco barrier, and he is towed back. So he said, you know what, don't think this is going to be the race for me. He's towed back to the pits. That is a very long tow indeed, as Murakami has already came in and got his pit stop done as he's working his way around Schreidenkreuz into Arenberg, and loses the rear there. He's just carrying too much speed through. And just go back to Hardwood, he may have had damage from that. Saunders may have had some damage from that side swipe of the barrier going through Tiergarten. So that might have made his entry into Arenberg, which is a very fast entry at hard braking zone, and he was on the outside. Might have made that a little more difficult to accomplish, and into the barrier again, and a tow back to the pits for Mr. Saunders. And I think Antonio Reese has already left the session. So we see Matt Thompson, little deep there going through, a little spin behind as well. I think that was Andrew Love. So a little check up there by Love and losing the rear. So you can see some very, very good Spec Racer drivers that are here, weekly, and been running this league for a while. Just as you see, just a little too much. Felt the rear coming loose, had to just check the car up, and now the Austin Powers maneuver to back the car up and get it turned around. But you can see some very, very good Spec Racer drivers are already struggling with this, and we're only on lap 2.
Yeah, only on the second lap of this race, and seeing the tensions start to arise. This is Rich Meesters in the midst of a hornet's nest with himself and Kurt Nunez, who opts to berm a little bit, gonna run off the circuit, and he's now gonna get chewed up and spat out by Fred Reisdijk right behind. So the driver of the 707 car in his debut now jumping up into P16 as it's still intense right behind. A bit of a sideways snap from Meesters, and this is a full-on hornet's nest. Harwood with that black flag now side by side with Marcus Burkett. This is heading his way off into the first of the 2 carousels. This is going to be tense. Harwood, 2 laps in a row that he finds himself running into some sort of difficulties through their side-by-side racing through the carousel. That's not even playing with fire. That's playing with a firing squad.
Yeah, it is indeed. And just for the people who haven't who are watching this and maybe haven't driven the Nordschleife, the outside line of the carousel is about a second slower than getting in the groove there. So it's very difficult to hold the car on the outside. So that's never going to be a good place to try and make a pass, a move done, unless you manage to sneak in and root somebody out as they're still battling hard through here. And now the front group is now up to 14 as Simpkins and Monty have joined the back of that train, just enough to get into the groove there, or to the draft. But now the once again 14 cars at the front of this field as we're watching the mid pack here. The Jeff Jacobson behind Dunnington and Harwood, Marcus Burkett just ahead there. So even this second pack is still racing very hard here on the second lap of this race.
Yeah, so expecting some hard battling from the start all the way through to the end of this race, and we've got an opportunity to see a lot of chaos and craziness. We jump to this fight, though, up at the front, which we're expecting to get wild once again, heading down the stretch. It's Aleix Pleva holding on to P10 at the moment. Jason Green back down in second. He and Dirk Braun have been swapping spots throughout this lap, which is rather fascinating. They've been playing it tame. They're still running P1 and P2, so clearly it hasn't broken added fisticuffs, but this is a very tricky track to try and play those games, as here they go heading out of the Klein Carousel off into the final. This is what I always like to call the chute before you head your way onto the stretch. This is going to be tense. We saw it last lap. We're going to see it once again. Dirk Braun starts the straight in the race lead. Does he end in it? I would say absolutely no shot. Here comes Jason Green. Here comes Marco Pinero. Here comes everybody. Side-by-side racing of Fernat with Green and Braun. Side-by-side racing going on with Joyner, Al-Shutwi, Pleva, and Wilkie swapping spots. Ozbek look to try and get involved in this fight as well. As here they go, coming to the crest. Jason Green still in that top spot. Dirk Braun giving him the bump draft. Pinero and Williams side-by-side with Nathaniel Schramm. Kind of following them. Not exactly sure how he can position himself the best to jump into a spot. Jason Green and Dirk Braun may very well end this straightaway in the race lead, proving me absolutely wrong. I will see myself out. So if you'd like my job here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, why not write to us at slowmotionbroadcasting@gmail.com. Joshua Wilkie, Joachim Ozbek side by side. You've still got side by side racing, and they touch contact made. Ozbek in a spin, and Wilkie in the fence, and he's going to break off his front fairing. Wilkie now the dangerous run to try and get from one side of the track to the other to come down pit lane. Nathaniel Stram and Sulal Shutwi have also been able to run into each other as well.
Yeah, we see a couple other cars. We've got 3 more meatballs. Al-Shutwi, Wilkie, Ozbek, and Joyner all have meatball flags, and that's going to make things very difficult for the first section here. As we're going to get a replay as this second little pack comes down side by side into Tier Garden, and you see Wilkie on the outside there gets a little shunt, and car in front spins, which causes more damage and more contact. And then Wilkie eases across there, manages to find a gap in the traffic, and gets pulled in. And that's probably the best thing that could have happened for Josh, was to have the incident right there, as we're going to get another replay of some of the cars further back. That's Ozbek on the inside there of Wilkie, and just see the car kind of push out a little bit. Ozbek spins into the barrier. There's Joyner. There's other cars. There's just chaos there. And Pleva as well. And Al-Shutwi, Matt Thompson is in the pits. So we're going to see if I think a lot of these cars have towed, and it's a real quick tow there if you haven't crossed the start finish line. But if you have, it's basically a full lap around. As we see Thompson, just I think he already had damage from some earlier stuff, but another crash into the Armco barrier there on the outside in Tier Garden. So Joyner, the only one that stayed out on his meatball, he'll come back in. I was gonna ask if we had anybody that was going to take the pit stop on that end of that second lap. We did not. So we've got this group now. I think a lot of these drivers will probably come in this time by.
Yeah, so anybody with a meatball flag, like the case of Joyner and certainly Richard Harwood with that black flag, going to have to come down pit lane to get that taken care of. But that's the problem with going side by side off into even the parts of the racetrack where you think it is the best spot to try and get a move done. It can occasionally end in tears. Also seeing some questions being raised in the YouTube chat. Now, it was asked in Italian, but I believe it was asking about the videos looping. That is a YouTube glitch. I'm not sure what fixes that. I would throw YouTube under the bus, but I'm a part of the YouTube partner program, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I would like to be able to get paid next month. Jason Green is still your race leader over Dirk Braun. The fact those two were able to hold on to first and second, hang down that straightaway. I'm not sure what kind of nitrous oxide they've got in their cars, but that was I am stunned still.
Yeah, so 6-car group up here at the front now as the little chaos that we had at the end of lap 2 has kind of broken this up. Hugh Simpkins is off the back of this group, 5.5 seconds. He's going to continue to lose time. He's got Joyner with him. Joyner with a damaged race car is probably not going to be able to lead and pick up any time. Oh, we got a car off, and I'm not sure who that was, but there was a car that came off there, off into the barrier. And I was trying to see who that might have been. Was that Rice Dyke? Maybe, as we're going to get a replay here as we're coming down. And this is Rice Dyke coming down into this section. I wish I knew what the name of it was, but it would probably be led by an F-bomb that I can't say now because I struggle with that corner myself. So it is one of those very difficult downhill braking zone corners that these cars absolutely do not like.
It's Wehrsiphon there, heading off into Wehrsiphon. I call that just the pain in the hind end downhill hairpin that I feel like I'm always going to crash in. Side by side racing with Dirk Braun and Jason Green. Maybe that's what that translates to in German. Dirk Braun and Jason Green still side by side here. This is heading off through what always feels like a never-ending section of the racetrack, but it's so tough to go side by side through here, especially into this part. Jason Green sweeping around the outside. Thought that was going to end in tears. It nearly did, but Dirk Braun having to back out of it. That was a commanding move from Jason Green. Going side by side through there, as we saw about a lap ago when Kurt Nunez was doing it with Scott Russell, which I think he's doing right now, actually, come to think of it. You can't really go, I mean, you can go side by side through there, but you can also become a multi-millionaire by liquidating all your assets and buying nothing but scratch-off lottery tickets. I wouldn't recommend it still.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary on that one. Just Jason Green, as we see another car, is that Simpkins? It is Simpkins. And then contact with York Monty. That was interesting. But Simpkins missing the groove there at the carousel, and then making contact with York Monty as they were coming out. So it's very dangerous there. Once again, you see the speed difference in the corner in the groove versus not in the groove, and that was a very good example of it. And then once again, wasn't necessarily a rejoin; it was just offline, trying to get back online, getting ready for the next curve, and contact made. But I think both cars are okay and still continuing on. And they're sitting right behind Ian Joyner, who's saying, "Please don't hit me. I've already got enough damage as it is." So back to this front group, and still hanging in there, still pretty much nose tail, a little bit of a gap there in certain spots, but nothing that's going to none of these cars are going to break away before we get down to the Dottinger the next time by. And once again, I expect a lot of these cars to come into the pits this time at the kind of the midpoint of the race here, as there will be only one more opportunity, and I don't know that they'll have enough fuel to get to the end of one more lap.
Yeah, so now we've got to consider those pit stops. I wouldn't usually think about the pit stops on the third lap of the race, but we are past the halfway mark here. So Nordschleife doing Nordschleife things. Now, I think we got to think about the fuel, but I'm also thinking about what sort of craziness we're going to have on this next run down the stretch. Jason Green with a bit of a curb whack through there. These curbs, they tend to be either like totally fine or absolutely deadly, and there is no in between. Remember, once I was hot lapping around here in the Lotus 78 and heading off into the chicane right before then, actually heading off into the final carousel that we just saw Dirk Braun and Jason Green head through. Hit the curb on the outside. Yeah, that curb right there that we saw Brad Cathcart hit. I hit that, got the back end out, and I snapped my steering wheel so strong and forcefully that I actually uncalibrated my steering wheel. I had to finish the rest of the lap with the wheel canted at about a 35-degree angle. That's a Logitech moment right there. Brad Cathcart, though, up 4 spots where he started in this race, had hard chargers throughout, including Fred Reisdijk up 20 spots where he started, as here we go. Jake Williams, Marco Pinero, Dirk Braun, Jason Green, Nathaniel Schramm, all covered by one singular blanket. Here we go under the bridge. Pinero and Williams side by side. Dirk Braun still side by side with he and Nathaniel Schramm. This may end in tears if one of these drivers backs out of it. I think Dirk Braun gonna decide to say, nope, I'm not gonna look to get involved in that. Nazelli gonna pounce on the opportunity, and Jason Green gonna slip back in tow as well. You've got to know when to choose your battles, as here we go. The first train of cars coming down pit lane. Pinero, Schramm, Nazelli, Braun, and Green.
Yeah, Jake Williams stays out, so that's the fastest lap of the race.
Oh, black flag for Green.
On, and then we're going to get Jason Green with the black flag for speeding on pit entry. That's horrible. We got Joyner, Simpkins, Monty in the pits as well. So Joyner maybe can make up a little bit of time, but he's got to gamble a little bit on fuel as we come in, and everybody is coming into the pits. It is only Jake Williams thus far who has stayed out to go an extra lap. And yeah, definitely, as Guido was saying in my ear, definitely a Thompson Trophy candidate here, trying to stretch his fuel for one additional lap. Now, he wasn't leading in that pack. He was kind of riding in the middle of it, so he did have the opportunity to save some fuel. And so he's, I guess, able to stay out. We do have a few other cars now that did not pit that time. Josh Wilkie did not pit. Harwood did not pit. I think he's already around the start finish line. He'll have to come in next time for A, for fuel, and B, for that black flag. Well, you know, if that black flag is a drive-through penalty, Mr. Harwood may be in deep trouble, because this will be his third lap with that flag, and he'll either have to take the black flag and risk trying to get around for an additional lap, which I don't think he'll have the fuel to do, or take the fuel and then not serve the black flag, and then when he comes around again, that's going to be a disqualification. So I think Mr. Harwood's in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, Harwood in trouble. Side-by-side racing with Pinero and Schramm. They're not running into difficulties yet. There are 3 drivers that I would say are in a little bit of hot water at the moment. It's Jake Williams, who we got to consider what sort of fuel situation he has got there. Not the only person to stay out here, so he may be good. He was running in the draft for a while, so I wonder if he was able to get enough fuel saving done there. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I thought there were drivers that have yet to come down pit lane. No, Williams is the only one, so who knows? Maybe he's got the old Smokey Eunuch trick of having a fire hose wrapping around his car a couple of times full of extra gas. If Williams is in trouble, so too, in a different sense, is Dirk Braun. Now, came down pit lane, doesn't have to worry about fuel, but he has lost touch of these drivers a little bit farther up the road, and his main sparring partner of Jason Green got whacked with a black flag, so he's in trouble. But of all the people to be in bad situations, I fear the most for Richard Harwood. We may not be seeing him for much longer in this, because if he comes down to serve that black flag and then runs out of fuel in the first sector, he's going to be towing back to the pit lane for the rest of the race.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's kind of the situation he's in. Unfortunately, is he's in serious trouble. But we'll kind of keep an eye. I want to watch the gap between Williams and Pinero's at 26 seconds. I think it's been that way since Pinero came out of the pits. I want to see if that gap starts dropping the further we get into this lap. If Jake is as close as we think he may be on fuel, I think that gap's going to start coming down quickly as he's trying to maybe just limp it back around to the end. As we're just kind of wait and see. It's one of those waiting games. So far, it's kind of extending the gap a bit, but that's just, I think, the difference in the sectors of where they are as these cars are ramping up here. Panero, Schramm, and Naselli, 3 deep with Dirk hanging off the back of that. If these guys decide, once these guys decide they're going to fight, Dirk should be able to get back up in there. He's not too far off, so I think he can make that time up. But we'll see what happens. Joyner up into P6. So went kind of look at Joyner's time. Pretty standard pit time. So did not do anything crazy with his fuel number. So he's gonna be up by himself, and we'll see if anybody makes a mistake that's going to allow a car to get close. But right now, the closest battle is Wilkie and Harwood there running in 7th and 8th. I'm sorry, 8th and 9th. And then Wilkie, of course, as he mentioned during our broadcast of the Formula Fords, either gets too little fuel or too much fuel. So I think we're on the too little side this time, which may be a problem.
I'm glad that man runs a broadcasting company better than he can run his fuel strategy. That is for darn sure. That's mean. I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. Please don't fire me. I'd quite like to be able to still afford Greek yogurt. Here's Brad Cathcart running in 17th at the present moment. You got Kurt Nunez right in front, and a hornet's nest of cars that includes, but is not limited to, Rich Meisters and Scott Russell and Edgar Sanginelli and Tom Gradwell a little bit farther behind. This is really fun. This has been some amazing racing, which should be expected around this track. I mean, that kind of is a rite of passage here. It's like Jörg Monty and Chris Thorpe going side by side from the looks of it. Brad Cathcart's still in the midst of that hornet's nest. If you can't get the move done heading off at the end of that flat-out blast before the carousel out of the Moot curve, you're in a little bit of trouble because the rest of this lap is pretty much medium to high speed, with the exception being the area around the Klein carousel.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Is a very difficult passing area here, unless somebody gets off the track and makes a mistake. But if you're running in the pack, it's very difficult to make a move through here. There's not really, as you said, medium and fast corners, and there's not really a lot of racing room. You can go too wide in a couple of sections, but it's still, once again, pretty difficult to accomplish. As we're coming up to the end of this lap, so the gap between Williams and Panero still 26 and a half as we're coming up here to the end. So we'll see Williams come in for his pit stop as we get a focus there on Nate Schramm for all the Schrammers in the YouTube chat, with Panero leading and Naselli behind. So Schramm in some fine company there with 2 very, very rapid Spec Racer drivers. As there's Williams now on the Dottinger straight coming down to the pits, and still like he's got as much pace as he's still full blast. So it looks like he's going to be able to successfully get to lap 4 here and get this done. As Harwood, you know what? Harwood's actually been in the pits already. As we're sitting there talking about it, he only doesn't. I don't think if Williams can make it from here on four laps on the initial tank, Harwood may have enough fuel, so he may not have to make a stop just to drive through and serve that. So it's going to cost him some time, but not nearly what we thought would happen originally. As I'm kind of recalculating things as we go here.
I will also say Harwood came down pit lane on lap 2, so he's already come in for a stop. We'll just have to see whether or not he can make it from here. As we are in the final 10 minutes of this race, Jake Williams has made it back into the pits, looking good on entry there. Keep an eye on how things work out with these racers in tow. Probably going to get jumped by Schramm, Panero, and Naselli, but I don't think it'll be by too much. Let's keep an eye on this as they head their way off through the final few turns right about now. Williams still stopped, well, still down pit lane, now on pit exit. This is actually going to be tight. I think he may stand within a fighting chance of cycling out to the race lead, and he has. Jake Williams, even by himself with no draft assistance, heading down the backstretch, able to jump out to a comfortable race lead, 1.8 seconds, as holy cow, we look at this, Jason Dunnington, Chris Thorpe, Brad Cathcart, everybody you can imagine in this little party heading off into the final few turns right now. They were able to get it sorted out with Monty Jacobson and Dunnington. Chris Thorpe able to lead that pack right in tow. I thought that was going to be an accident, I'll be honest.
That was very, very close, but they made it all made it through successfully. And here we are on lap 5. And I'm looking at the time. We're just now at the 8-minute mark left in the race. So we're going to have one more lap of racing. So 6-lap race today. So we're going to get one more white flag next time by. And Jake has now got 3 very, very fast drivers just behind him. They've got him in in their sights. So he is now the rabbit, and these guys are the wolves. As we see Panero there with the bump draft on Nate Schramm coming down the straightaway into Swedenkreuz and then Ehrenberg, and adds a couple of tenths or closes it down by a couple of tenths to Williams as they come through Ehrenberg and then down the hill into the foxhole.
Oh, so here comes Kurt Nunez on Chris Thorpe. There's the swapperoo, and that's how you get that move done there. All through Flugplatz into Conborn right now. See, I said that I wasn't going to tempt fate with the German pronunciations. And now, whether I get haunted by my late grandfather, we'll just have to find out. But in the meantime, Kurt Nunez and Brad Cathcart now side by side. Nunez, we've seen a level of aggression out of Nunez that we haven't been able to see out of many other racers. He's been willing to stick his nose down the inside in many different points, and has been able to get moves done more often than not and get them done clean, even with a couple of Code Brown moments sprinkled in throughout. As we saw that battling, though, Marco Panero has been able to jump up into second. The battling still intensifying between these racers as here comes Monty and Dunnington. Dunnington jumping his way up into 12th.
Yeah, good move by Dunnington there to get that position coming out of Foxhole into Adenau Forest. So yeah, great bit of driving, and I tempt fate only with the ones I know. I'm just familiar with a few of the corners, and I just know them from sight and by name. So I try and use them when I can. But still really good battling here in the mid pack. As these cars are still fighting hard. There's just a huge gap of cars there from about 38 seconds, 38 seconds behind to about 44 seconds behind is about 10 cars, and they're still really doing battle amongst themselves as we're looking here at U Simpkins running in 7th, leading the Spec 2 class. Josh Wilkie about 3 seconds behind, so Josh not out of it yet to get a class victory, but he's going to need he might need a little help from Use to maybe make a small mistake that's going to allow him to get a little bit closer. But still, the big gap up front is closing a little bit more. It's down to about 1.4, so they are still closing the gap down. And we're going to get a nice run here as they come up the hill. And then Schramm's going to try and make the move on Panero on the right-hand side as we climb up the mountain, heading down into Moot Curve again. And we'll see, they're side by side, and now we're getting a push. We're getting a bump draft now from Schramm. Could not make it happen up the mountain, so he said, I'll just get behind and give a boost. And Naselli's going to look on the outside, try and make the move around, and he is going to get that done. So got a good run and able to make that pass, and closes the gap a little bit further up to Williams. Yeah,
so reeling it up. Yeah, 1 second now, the gap between Williams and Naselli. That is the drafting window, and there you can see that gap closing down now to about 3/4 of a second. With the twists and turns coming up, I think Jake Williams wasn't able to break away. And now we saw that battling with Naselli, Panero, and Schramm. And now usually you'd think that the battling would just result in those drivers slowing each other down, but they were doing it strategically. They would know when to leapfrog in front of one another to keep the momentum rolling and keep the momentum rolling? They did, as Nozelli is there to pounce everybody else right in tow. That pack and battle is going to be intense, as they are going to be taking the white flag this upcoming time by Scott Russell. Kurt Nunes in a battle with Brad Cathcart here. Look at Russell trying to get that spot, and he does. P16 for him. Somebody asking whether that's a Krispy Kreme car. No, that's a New Jersey Turnpike car. Krispy Kreme has a lot more whimsy and glee to it than the New Jersey Turnpike. I say this as somebody who's driven on it.
There you go. Yep. So now we've got the 4-car battle up front. The 3-car pack has caught the back of Jake Williams. And as they get a little bit faster, that tow picks up a little bit more, and they get a little bit closer. They'll be all on top of each other again, probably on the back straight. Kind of was looking down the order. Jason Green is within 3 seconds of Gradwell. He's down in P22, obviously, after his penalty. But he's got 5 cars in front of him. So there is a potential for him to make up some time, but he's furiously trying to get to the back of that 4-car group. And is closing it down quite well. So obviously Green with a very, very fast car, good driver. So he's closing it down, and he'll be up there with Gradwell, Thorpe, Meesters, and Sancinelli here in short order, and hopefully can maybe get a few more positions and keep his the gap between himself and Joyner close, a little bit closer. There in the overall championship standings. This is obviously not great for Jason, but now we've got Dunnington and Monty here, and this is Monty running P2 in the Masters class behind Dunnington running in P6 P7 in the Spec 1, but 12th overall, so a battle for P12.
Yeah, so the battle's intensifying, but we see these racers heading their way off through the chute onto the back straightaway. This will be their second to last run through here with 2 minutes left to go on the clock. Jake Williams leading over Nozelli, over Pinero, over Nathaniel Schramm, but the order that these 4 drivers find themselves in probably going to get turned on its head in just a few moments' time. Here comes Nozelli closing up that gap to less than 1/10 of a second. He's going to pull out to try and get the move done. Pinero and Schramm, they might try and time this out a little bit later. They're farther behind. Nozelli gets the spot. Williams slips back in tow, and this is going to be the opportunity that Pinero and Schramm may try and capitalize on. Here we go. Williams once again fanning out side by side the straightaway so long you can get overtaken and then go back on a driver once more before you even have to think about breathing on that brake pedal. Nozelli, though, going to withstand that challenge. Williams backing out. Nobody wants a lead heading down that back straightaway to start off the last lap, but Nozelli will be leading come time for the white flag in just a few moments' time. One more lap of racing action. We're still going to be here for about 7 minutes, but this is going to be a very intense and a very stressful 7 minutes for these racers.
Indeed it is. We've got just one more lap to go, and I know Nocelli's out front. He wanted to take the lead there and kind of set the pace, but that is the one position you do not want to be in coming down the back stretch for the last lap. It's probably going to be 4 wide between those guys anyway. Let's be fair. They'll probably go as 4 wide for as long as they can until they get into Tier Garden, and then that's when the heartbreak's going to set in for probably some of the drivers that are involved in that battle, as we have more of these groups coming down. Jason Green's up to P19, so Wilkie, Burkett, Harwood, all in the pits. Not enough fuel to get to the end of the race, so they get the pit stop done. And it was a very quick stop for Wilkie, but they were going to lose some positions there as they rejoin down in 15th. He's got Jason Green will be breathing down his neck here in very short order as Jason has moved to the front of that group. And now we're back up to the front here. We've got four in line with Nocelli, Jake Williams, Pinero, and Nate Schramm that will be deciding the winner of this race.
Yeah, so here we go. Your top 4 in a battle all by their lonesome. Pretty much no hope for anybody behind, although the battles behind still have their own sense of important. Championship points leader Ian Joyner is slotted in 6th. Not sure if he'll be able to close up that gap to himself and Dirk Braun in this last lap, but hey, miracles can happen here at the Green Hell. Look at Jake Williams feeling pressure from Marco Pinero. They don't fan out to side-by-side racing, but Marco Pinero is a driver that we seriously have to consider to be a threat come time for the end of this race. Pinero and Nazelli, veterans of the Weekend Warriors. Jake Williams and Nathaniel Schramm, a bit newer to this world, but still very fast racers in their own right. Hey, they wouldn't be running in the position that they are in if they weren't quick drivers, as Rich Meesters, one of the top performers and masters of the sideways snap, hang off through the final braking zone, and that's going to cause him to drop a couple of spaces, maybe even more.
Yeah, and that was what allowed Jason Green to get to the front of that group. As the gap now is 3.7 up to Josh Wilkie, and then another 3 seconds up. There's another host of cars that's sitting there at P11. So racing not done yet. There's still plenty of opportunities to gain or lose positions here before this race is over. And, Dirk Braun and Ian Joyner are sitting there now. Ian Joyner 0.6 of a second back, so that's a 2-car pack. So those guys will be fighting, and what they're hoping for is there's none of those cars left when they get through Tiergarten, and they can just kind of roll through and take the top 2 spots. But we'll see. It's going to be very difficult with a 10-second gap. Even if a couple of those cars may bang off the track, they should be able to get rejoined safely and still cross before those guys get there. But you never can tell. I've seen races here where you've had 7 or 8 cars in the front group just end up wadding it all up in the Tiergarten section, and then that's race done, and you've got a guy running 6 that ends up winning the race. So it's stranger things have happened. This is one of those tracks that, once again, it's a wild card track. So anything can happen, and your position can change in the blink of an eye.
And absolutely correct there, Charles. This is going to be an unpredictable end to this race. Nazelli, Williams, Schramm, Pinero still more or less running in the positions that they were a few moments ago, although Schramm and Pinero did swap spots. But this doesn't really matter all that much, because the back straightaway is going to be where the pay window opens, and when everybody is going to break out the knives and start just going at each other. We look at Williams running right behind Nazelli, trying to find the drift and find the opportunity to get a move done here. He's not going to go for it just yet, because as I said one lap ago, side-by-side racing through the final sector, very tricky to manage, and plus you've still got that final straightaway to try and make the move work. We look at Scott Russell now battling with Brad Cathcart. This is a fight for 11th and 12th right now. Cathcart running currently running P2 of the Masters Racers, 12th overall. And a reminder to those tuning into this series, maybe for the very first time, the points are awarded based off overall finishing position, not based off where you finish in class. So Cathcart looking to try and get some good points hauls here, but side-by-side racing, this is where things can get stressy. But Cathcart looks like he has been able to withstand the challenge, and he now holds on to that P11 spot. 2-second gap to himself and class leader of Uragmani. Not sure if we'll see a close up there. One more mention that I do want to give before we switch our attention fully off into this battle for the race lead that we've got our eyes on right now is Fred Reisdijk, holding on to P8 at the moment, the newcomer in this series, running in Spec 2. He's second in class at the moment, and still one of your hard chargers here in this race. 22 spots gained ever since the drop of the green flag. Fantastic debut from the Dutchman in Spec 2. He's running behind his countryman of Just Simpkins in class. Fantastic performance from all of our racers to make it to the end. Cathcart, though, sideways, slideways moment for him. Contact made with himself and Jeff Jacobson. They're going to end in tears. Josh Wilkie picks up a black flag as that as well. As Jason Gringo looked to get his nose involved in that too. I was expecting some drama was going to break out there, and drama did break out.
Yeah, drama broke out. Unfortunately, Wilkie, we give him a hard time. He will make a mistake from time to time. This was not on him. This was just hard battling in front of him. And you saw the contact there with Nunez. And just gets the car caught up, and then it just kicks off all over again as those cars just keep hitting each other. And nowhere for Wilkie to go there.
Oh, and he's stuck too.
As you can see, just stuck together. And so black flag for Wilkie, who's towed back to the pits. Black flag for Jeff Jacobson. And here we go, Ron. It's about to get spicy.
I'm not sure if it's possible to crack the knuckles of your vocal cords. That sounds like it is physically impossible. Richard Harwood's got a DQ, though, so unfortunate way for his race to go. But here we go, heading down the back straightaway for the last time. Nazelli leads him. Williams right in tow. He's given the bump. He's given the draft. Working together for now, but the two drivers behind going to use this opportunity. Williams pulls along side by side. Schramm makes it 3 wide. Look at Marco Panero, though. He will be there to try and pounce when it matters the most. Schramm now your leader. Nazelli going to get shuffled back down to P4 as Panero now bending the floor pan in that race car. Here we go. 3 wide for the race lead. Panero, Williams, Schramm. Panero gets that race lead under the bridge. A little bit of contact with Williams and Schramm. They're side by side still. Schramm keeping the momentum rolling. There they go, fighting back. 3 wide. Contact made. Banging doors and banging wheels. More contact. Panero gonna go for the dive. Schramm goes for a spin. Contact made. Nazelli gonna wipe himself out of it too. And Jake Williams gonna win it here at the Nordschleife. How did he pull that one off?
I don't have any idea, but holy crap, what an ending to that race. And it's exactly what you expect here. You expect, as we've got the crab dance by Schramm there coming across the line to finish just off the podium in 4th, but it's exactly what you expect when you've got 4 cars heading down. They took it 3 wide into Tiergarten. That was never going to work. And you saw just the results as cars going in every direction. And Williams just manages to sneak through and pick up the race victory. So well done from Jake to get through there and get that all done as Naselli finishes second after he was 4th about 2 corners ago.
I'm still trying to catch my breath from that. Oh, Kurt Nunez, he's run into trouble. He's going to drop down. Black flag as well for he and Jeff Jacobson. Now, he can't serve that black flag on the last lap, so that will be game, set, match for them finishing anywhere near towards the front. Richard Harwood with that DQ, he's still going to be classed in 22nd at the moment, although he'll probably lose out on some places. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that finish. You know, Jake Williams started that back straightaway off on the race lead, finishes at the front, but the path to get there was far from straightforward. But that's the sort of deal that you have to consider. You can never rule out the car at the tail end of that pack, because they will always have a fantastic opportunity when the racing gets tight. 3 wide racing off into that section. It was Panero basically flat-footing and gunning his way through the chicane, and then Schramm spinning off in the process. At first, I thought it was going to be Schramm's win for the taking when I saw Panero go off the track. Then he spun. Then I thought it was going to be Nazelli, and then he got just whacked. That was bad damage and a bad bit of contact for those two. More contact made as they headed their way across the stripe. But let's see this here. You wanted a wild finish here at the Nordschleife, folks, and a wild finish we most certainly got. Jake Williams with the stones to go for the move, and look at Panero with the Freebird moment. Contact made. Yeah, I gotta say, Jake Williams able to pull off the double here today, which is impressive in its own right. But the path to get there in both races, we had a 4-car battle for the race win in both of our races, and Jake Williams came out smell like a bed of roses in the both. And we see Kurt Nunez with the bucking Bronco ride off through the final few turns, ends up with the rear end about 3 feet up in the air. JG2 running wide off into the final few turns. But Jake Williams, anyways, getting back to the point, both 4-car battles, both battles that he won out, but neither of them were anywhere close to being straightforward.
So how did he hit that bump with the back tires and did with the front tires? Is what I want to know. But wow, what a massive airborne moment there for Nunez, as has to wait, unfortunately. Just wow, and just has to wait for traffic to clear. Doesn't want to pull out and ruin anybody else's race, so waits to get an opening, backs up a little bit so he can get an easier turn back onto the track. Very sportsmanlike out of Kurt to wait for the rest of the cars to come through. And I think we've got one car that's just now finishing, and I think that's Matt Thompson is the last car to cross the checkered flag. And he has done so. So I think we should be getting our race results here in the next moment or so. So,
Yeah, we've finally had all of the cars come across the stripe. It takes about 60 years, but we have finally gotten it. Here are your race results. Jake Williams wins it in the stunner of a finish that we just saw here. That may have been one of the most wild finishes I've gotten to cover, I'll be completely honest. Maurizio Nazelli comes across the line in P2. Marco Panero rounds out your podium in third. Nathaniel Schramm finishes in P4 with Ian Joyner and all that chaos and craziness ends up walking away with the top 5. Dirk Braun classed in 6th in front of your Spec 2 winner of Just Simpkins. Fred Reisdijk will finish P8 in his series debut. Fantastic result for the Dutchman behind the wheel of the 707 car. Jason Dunnington, pretty good drive from him as well. We were talking about Reisdijk being the hard charger, but he put on a good race too. 17 spots gained from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered. Second on the hard charger standings there, P9 in the field. Jörg Monty wins it in the Masters category, completing your top 10.
Yeah, Scott Russell finishes in 11th, final step on the Spec 2 podium. Brad Cathcart, P12 and P2 in Masters. Jason Green, 13th. Edgar Santinelli, 14th. Tom Gradwell gets the final step on the Masters podium to finish in 15th. Rich Meester, 16th. Chris Thorpe, 17th. As we scroll, and we got Marcus Burkett in 18th, Paul Jackson 19th, Jeff Jacobson 20th, 21st is Kurt Nunez. Josh Wilkie ends up 22nd, Matt Thompson 23rd, Richard Harwood finishing in 24th, Andrew Love in 25th, Philip Berry in 26th, Joaquin Osbeck finishes in 27th, so Al Shutwee finishing in 28th, Alice Pleva finishing in 29th, Antonio Reese in 30th, Steve Saunders 31st, and Chris Murakami, unfortunately, P32. Final car classified on today's race results.
Yeah, my vocal cords are going to be feeling that finish in the morning. My, oh my. But let's move off into the interviews. We got some drivers looking to have a chat with us. At the moment, it's only Ian Joyner up there in the interview waiting area, but it's been a little while since I had a chat with him, so I'll drag him into the booth. P5 at the end of this race. Ian, welcome into the booth. P5 for you here at the Nordschleife in a wild race with many twists and turns, and not just the ones out there on circuit. How was it out there?
Yeah, tough, then a little bit lonely, I suppose, after that. Just a tiny little race with Dirk at the end. Pretty gutted really not to be in the scrap right at the end of the race, but there wasn't much more I could do, to be honest, after the contact. I just got caught up in another issue. To get back to where I got to was I can't really complain at that. The pass, I haven't raced in this format here before, and I did get caught out by the sheer number of cars that came past the first time. The end of that first lap was just absolutely mad. Interesting, fun. Glad to get fifth, to be honest.
Yeah, I think considering the amount of stuff that he had to fight back from, it was a very well-composed drive, a championship contender's drive, shall we say. I don't want to say anything yet, but looking pretty good as we head off into the final 2 weeks. When it comes to that championship fight, what is the thought process as we head into the conclusion of this season?
I think it's just turn up and just try and get good results. It's always, you never want to have it's not like you really do anything differently. You're always just trying to get a good result. You never want to go home. You're not never taking kind of crazy risks. So it's just turn up, keep enjoying it. Try and get to the front. That's always the aim.
Yeah, just trying to be there at the very end and get some good results in the process. But speaking about the end of the season, Ian, next time out, we're going to be heading off to Imola. Now, that track is a pretty big departure from this one. Still a old school blast from the past racetrack, but a lot smaller, a bit more manageable of a racetrack there. So what are your thoughts heading off to Imola in 1 week's time?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's a fun track. I mean, you would say that it's quite a draft heavy track, but then coming from here, it's nothing like that. So, I'll be back to something a little bit more conventional. It's fun to drive. It's we did have it last season in these cars, so again, it's a long straight, so it's another one where it's sort of tenuous as to whether you want to be in front or not, and then you're adding fuel saving as well. It's another kind of challenging one from a racing point of view, from just from strategy. It'll be fun. It looks kind of beautiful in the sim, I imagine. I've never been there in real life. I imagine it's a beautiful place. So looking forward to it. Enjoy driving look forward to the race.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one, and I will say the last time we were there, I'm personally gonna be looking for redemption at that race next week. Last time we were there for the broadcast, I called it Monza in the open, and then I had Guido screaming in my ear when I mispronounced Piratella on the track guide. So we'll be looking to bounce back there. Yeah, see, what happened was Guido was telling me the Italian pronunciation, which rolls the letters the way that I cannot, and I misheard it, so it was a whole deal. But Ian, I'll let you give any thanks or shout outs. Welcome into the Madhouse here on the broadcast booth.
That would be an awesome intro. Maybe Guido can do a little section on it in the build up to the race next week. That'd be, I'm sure that the viewers will love that.
Oh, defer to Guido. That'd be Guido has gotten the opportunity to cover some of the Formula Fords. Did that once with me at Sebring about a season ago. So that would be quite cool. You're giving us good ideas here, Ian.
Look forward to it. All right, yeah. Thanks to you guys as always. Thanks to the league. It's been a fun season. Yeah, see you next time.
Yeah, we certainly will see you there for that second to last round of the championship, Ian. Thank you for joining us in the booth, and we'll see you next time out at Imola.
Thank you. See you then.
You know, it would have been so funny if I said, we'll see you next time out at Monza to end off that interview. But, we live and we learn. I think I'm trying to remember the exact circumstance. I think I had been on the air for like 5 hours beforehand, and I was tired out of my skull. I wasn't even on the Formula Ford. I think I was on some iRacing special event broadcast, which happy to say that the people here in the YouTube chat are a lot better than some of the people in the special event broadcast chat just about 24 hours ago for the Bathurst 12. I wasn't on that broadcast, but I heard some of the clapback, and whoo doggy. Thank you all of you for tuning into the broadcast and giving us a lively chat as always. See the Schrammers out there. See Mr. Wilkie not having a good time in terms of, run into in another one of these races, and the fuel dilemma. Hey, I guess it all started when he went 2-0 against us in the hockey final. But Charles, we also have Hugh Simpkins looking to have a chat with us. So I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with our Spec 2 winner here today.
Yeah, let's bring Houston here and have a conversation with him. Hey, Houston, welcome into the booth. Haven't spoken with you in a while. So, hey, a good race today and getting the S2 class victory. So I saw you had some really good battles out there, but just talk about your race in general and how you felt everything went.
Well, everything went smooth, as smooth as possible on this track. The green hell, they call it, of course. It felt sure like it in the first lap. Had a little contact, I think, with Phil Berry. I recovered from that, lost a few positions, and after that, it was really smooth. I could keep up with the rest in front of me until the first pit stop, and after that, I was practically on my own and tried to finish it without too many incidents. So I'm really happy with the results so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes when I talk with guys that are on my team, it's like sometimes just finishing an event feels like a victory. No matter where you finish, just surviving feels like that's something that it's an accomplishment in and of itself. So next week we go back to a little more, less chaotic track, but still a difficult track nonetheless at Imola. So what are your thoughts about that?
That's a completely different cup of tea, of course, from the green hell. But I really like Imola. It's a bit more of a Mickey Mouse circuit. Yeah, we'll see about it next week. I have to do some practicing first, of course.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. So one more question. So I think I saw you running the officials this week in the Spec Racer here at the Green Hell. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've joined some officials. Yeah.
So does that give you? Because I feel like the officials are a little bit maybe more chaotic, if that's even possible, than our series races that we have here. But it does give you, obviously, I think it gives you a chance to get a little more preparation and some laps in, and kind of get a feeling for the car. Is that how you're using the official racing?
Yeah, sure. That's basically because there's no better practice than the real deal. So if you're doing the officials, it's as close as you can get in the Weekend Warriors. The thing is, with the Weekend Warriors, you're a bit more familiar with the drivers, and then the officials, you'll run into new guys all the time, and sometimes they're less experienced or have a different philosophy of driving. So sometimes it turns out a bit more challenging in the officials than the Weekend Warriors. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, once again, congratulations. We'll let you give any thanks that you want to give out, and we'll let you go get ready for next week at IMLA.
Well, thanks to the Weekend Warriors just for being there, and it's such an awesome series and so much fun driving there. And of course, you guys, awesome broadcasting. I'm looking forward to looking it back later tonight.
Right, thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week, Just.
Okay, thank you guys.
Right. Yes,
cheers.
Sir.
Yeah, and that right there was Hugh Simpkins, our race winner in the Spec 2 category here today. And actually getting some confirmation in the YouTube chat from somebody who I called a newcomer, Fred Reisdyke. He's been in the Weekend Warriors world for a long time already. See, it's at times like these when I'm reminded of the fact that even though I've been commentating these events for nearly 2 years straight now, I am reminded of the fact that the Weekend Warriors initially started off when I was still in elementary school, which is a wild thought to think about in and of itself. But Charles, this was a wild race as we kind of expect, but Imola next time out, that's gonna be pretty nuts too.
I mean, it's I love Imola as a track. Obviously, it has its own challenges. Obviously, we talk about those first two sets of chicanes, Tamburello and Villeneuve, that you have to deal with. The curbing is always an issue. Doesn't matter what car you're driving around there. And for the most part, it's a pretty tight track. Not a lot of drafting opportunities. There's plenty of places to make some good moves, and we'll see a lot of good side racing next week. Looking forward to it. I once again love IMLA as a racetrack, and seemingly these F1 tracks that we go to, whether it's a new one like Coda or an old one like IMLA, it just does so much for a single make series like the Spec Racers there, or Formula 4s or Formula Vs, either one. It just makes the racing that much more enjoyable to watch a single make series come to that track. And so it's going to be one of those that I will be looking forward to doing the commentary on. And we get our cast of characters back again next week, and we'll have us a great race.
Yeah, it's going to be super duper fun. And now flying into the final few weeks of this iRacing season with all three of the Weekend Warriors leagues back here on SMB, the Formula Vs on Saturdays, the Formula 4s, and the Spec Racer Fords on Sunday. We've still got a lot of action to look forward to here tonight. Coming up later on, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, you'll be able to catch the second to last round of XSLR. That'll be actually coming to you at Road America. Spa will be the season finale in 2 weeks' time. And also the Liberty Bell Buddy Race, some VW Beetle Light cars. Michelle Lynn, who is in the YouTube chat, is a regular driver of that all-female racing league, and here in this event she'll be co-driving with Jason Green, from what I heard. So a lot of good racing actions to look forward to here on SMB. Hope to see you all for those broadcasts a little bit later on here tonight. But as for this broadcast here for round number 10 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at the Nordschleife, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the broadcast booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.